What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Justin Rodriguez, your favorite lender here at Neighborhood Loans, and we are back with another episode of Cafecito Talks. And if we're in the cigar lounge, you already know where we're at and who our other guest is. So Dwight Marroquin has joined us again, my mentor. But we also have a very special guest who is actually one of Dwight's great friends, childhood friends. They grew up together. And I figured this would be a very interesting podcast as well because I honestly don't have an idea of what he does as an occupation. I know he's very well known everywhere. But I am super, super excited to introduce Rick Estrada. So, Rick, if you want to give a little background on everything and what you do.
Sure, Justin. First of all, thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here and good to be here with my compadre, Dwight. Rick Estrada, I'm president and CEO of a place called Metropolitan Family Services. We're the first chartered human service organization in the state of Illinois. We're also the largest non-sectarian nonprofit in the state of Illinois today. And we provide services for about 132,000 people per year. And our mission is simply to provide or mobilize resources to empower families, to strengthen families and communities. That's a little bit, that in a nutshell, that's what we
do. Right.
Yeah.
I love it. And I know one thing that I love about you guys' story is that you guys grew up together. And Dwight, I want you to kind of shine light on this because one thing I think about is all the people that I grew up with. And did you guys imagine that this is the shoes that you guys would be in at this point in time in life?
Honestly, Justin, thanks again for inviting me to this. The only way you know how to get me to do this is with a cigar and tequila and whiskey, bro. So thanks again for having me today. But more than anything else, today's a Rick Estrada show, right? I look at Rick as one of my mentors, and he, in a nutshell, he gave you what he does. But I've known Rick for more than 20 years, and I met him through a circle of friends that I didn't know exactly what people in life should actually do, right? You have a purpose in life to definitely achieve your goals, but always to give back. And Rick has taught me that. Rick has definitely opened my eyes into success doesn't necessarily have to just stay in your house. You definitely build success to help others. And he's always been in that non-profit world. I met him when he was a director of Erie House, who's also does similar to what his organization has done as well. And knowing Rick through all my life and what he's done to the community speaks volumes of his character. And I've said this before, you hang around with the right people. And he's taught me so much to give back to the community. I realize I don't give enough, which is the last time we talked about philanthropy, which is, I think, is important for Rick to shed light on that, right? But Rick's story goes, we can talk about Rick more than an hour. I can tell you that right now. You're talking about a guy right now that when I met him, I learned about his life, and he was going to be a priest. So it goes to show you the kind of man that he is. How did he end up where he's at today from being Quigley is where you went, right, bro? So he started in Quigley. His vision was to be a priest and took a different approach, but still focused on helping the community. And that's really what sometimes where people of success have to give back to the community. And it's important as it breeds a different type of success. And it's when you can help others, and this, especially in this day and age where people need it, you have to teach people that it's not just about you. It's about other families. And your success is built on the ability to help others. And if you bring your whole community up, which is what Rick has done, he can be anybody he wants in this world. He is one of the most respected men that I know. And the fact that he stays humble and still gives back and focuses on his industry that focuses on helping others goes to show you, this is why he's one of my closest friends, because he's taught me things that I need to know and I need to implement in my life. And when you surround yourself with those type of people, success organically will grow.
And I love that. I think it speaks volumes to hear. And one thing he actually spoke about is that you were going to be a priest. And I want to actually talk about that because I think that speaks for itself on what type of man you are. And I actually love that. But I want to hear the origin story on how Rick Estrada became who you are. What jobs did you start with and how did you become in the position that you are in right now?
Yeah, Justin, I'll do my best to kind of go back when you say that I grew up with Dwight, it's not completely true because I'm a lot older than Dwight. So
Yeah, you gotta show me like that, bro.
It's a
We're
little
not
bit easier
childhood
to
friends,
say.
for sure.
I've seen him grow up, and we've become really good friends over the course of the last 20 plus years. But in terms of me, immigrant, came to this city when I was 7 years old and grew up in the little village community, and a proud member of that community. Went to high school, as Dwight said, at a place called Quigley Seminary South. Then went to the college seminary. It was then called Loyola University, Niles campus, Niles College of Loyola University. Everything was going well. At the seminary, I was graduated, was going to go to the major seminary at St. Mary of the Lake. But before doing that, I was sent to Bolivia, South America, to strengthen my vocation. That was the idea. So I went down to Bolivia, another, Latin American country. I've never even really heard of it before. So I went down there, ended up in a place called Santa Cruz, Bolivia, and then did some mission work around different places. But what I realized there is one, my mindset was pretty much Chicago, Mexican, and Puerto Rican. You'd meet some Cubans along the way, some Guatemalans, some Colombians, but really the big populations were Puerto Rican and Mexican. And I go down, there's this whole culture, this ancient culture. They're part of the Inca Empire, part of their Quechua Aymara, still alive and active way there. Highest percentage of indigenous people in the world, in this hemisphere, I should say, are in Bolivia. And so I started learning it's a great culture. The people, it was the poorest country in the Western hemisphere outside of Haiti. So the idea was I was going to strengthen my vocation. What ended up happening was I realized I loved the service and that I didn't need to be ordained to do the kind of work I do. So I think I left the seminary there, but I came back. I still went through the seminary, and then I struggled in the seminary, not academically, but just should I be here or not? And then I ended up leaving after one semester at the major seminary at St. Mary of the Lake. And not because of anything that having to do with the seminary, but because I decided I wanted to be in the same kind of mission, but doing it as a non-ordained human being. And so then I started, I had degrees in psychology, philosophy, theology. And so what do I do now? So I just asked my buddy, a guy Juan Horta, I'm like, hey, you know of any jobs? And he said, yeah, there's this job here where I work. And I ended up this little tiny nonprofit called Latino Youth Inc. And that's where the origin started. I went there and, like today, people criticize millennials for being impatient and they think they know more than their boss right away. And they start jumping around. Well, I was that guy. I got there. I'm like, oh, my boss isn't the best. And so I jumped around a couple different jobs, ended up at the Erie Neighborhood House, where I met Dwight. And I ended up being executive director there. Along the way, I, picked up a couple of master's degrees, one at the University of Chicago, one at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and one in business, one in social work policy. And one thing led to the next. I was there as executive director. I worked for the city for a little while. Headhunter came and asked me if I'd be interested in the Metropolitan Family Services CEO job. I had done an internship there in 1992, so I was still young. And I'm like, of course, it's one of the most prominent human service organizations in the state. And so I went there and been there now for almost 13 years. And it's been a terrific ride for me and hopefully for the organization as well.
And you're a ball of knowledge. Like the amount of education that you have is absolutely amazing. And not only education, I think experience. It speaks a lot of value with like how much experience you actually have going to different countries, going to different employers. And it's interesting to find out what perspective of life that you have, because you see a lot of different perspectives of other countries, a lot of schooling that you've had.
Yeah.
What was your overall mission when you joined this and you took the role of a CEO of a company? What was your overall mission that you wanted to accomplish as soon as you joined that role?
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, what I say to Dee and what I say to you, and I think you believe this as well, that leadership is leadership. It doesn't really matter the context. It could be a business context, in diplomacy or world affairs, in real estate, in nonprofit. If you're a leader, you're essentially going to hold on to the same basic principles. You need hard work, integrity. You need the ability to kind of sell a product. In your case, you're selling that not only real estate and loans, but the idea of a home
Right.
as to where you're going to build your future in this home, and then maybe you build wealth through this home. I essentially sell promise that we could help our community be better. And so basically at MFS, our job is to first understand that people already have power. They're already strong, they're smart, they're able. And so, but maybe they're down on their luck and they need job training. Maybe they need legal assistance. Maybe they're victims of domestic violence or some other kind of gun violence. And our job is to help and make sure they take that next step and move forward. We have childcare centers. Again, we have workforce development and all these other services that help people move forward. So my mission is simple. How do we help unlock the human potential that we know is there? It's intrinsic to us. So how do we unlock it so that they move forward and they start building a happy life, equity? They buy homes from you, buy loans from you, buy homes, that kind of stuff. We want people to achieve their dreams. That we have the same mission.
Yeah, and I feel like what's interesting is I feel like it all stems from your upbringing. Like when you talk about Little Village, these neighborhoods, I have a lot of friends who grew up in not only just Little Village, Humboldt Park, kind of different areas. And what I hear from it is you grew up in the environment of everybody that just needed maybe a push or a little bit more education that will excel their lives in a way that they could never imagine. And I think your company just provides that for people.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting enough. One thing I love about my family, right? Dwight, my mom, my dad, everybody, that what they've done is they provided that education for their parents, because their parents, I mean, you could speak for it better than me, but they.
One thing I would tell you is that, go back to Rick and his upbringing, similar to mine, is, he has the scholar accolades to be the man he is today. But I don't think he would be the man he is today unless he actually experienced the same trials and tribulations that I experienced. Don't let the jacket and, don't let that fool you. Rick has been through some tough times growing up in Little Village. I mean, we know stories about him having a party and the gangbangers going in there, having a big fight. So trust me when I tell you that he has gone from the immigrant in Little Village through some tough neighborhoods and growing up to the man he is today. So he's a perfect example that you can grow up in tough neighborhoods and use that as knowledge and experience to be a better man, right? So I get it. It's hard to change your life when you surround yourself with wrong people, right? But he's a perfect example that you can be focused and you can use what you've actually experienced and use it to benefit your future. I think he is the man he is today because of the upbringing that he wants to give back to the community. He wants to make the community better so they can walk in his shoes one day. And it's something to be said about when you actually are part of the, there's people that talk about rough neighborhoods and making neighborhoods in our society better and our neighborhoods better, our community better. But I don't really respect people that haven't walked in those shoes. And he's a guy that has walked in those shoes, right? Again, don't let that polished man fool you. He's been through some rough times, but I think he's used that to fuel him to want to do more for those communities, right? So I think that experience is definitely, again, we talked about that, before, where you surround yourself with the right people, and he's definitely surrounded. That's why he's one of my closest friends that I always lean to when I need advice on life itself, because he's actually had more experience than I do. He's been through other countries. How many people, I know you did Haiti, right?
Yeah.
What kind of experience did that, what changed you when you went to Haiti?
Everything. I mean, that's why I respect so much of talking about countries. And that was a good point that you brought up, because when I went to Haiti, it was during the time of Christmas, actually holidays. It was like holiday season. And you go to these countries and it's like not even spoken about. And holidays aren't even a thing over there. You land there and the first thing they're trying to do is they're trying to sell you paintings, and you see it's not just grown-ups, it's little kids who are coming up to you with these paintings just to make a couple dollars on selling paintings. And, you go to these experiences. We stayed in a concrete hut, and the mom, we paid for the mom's food. So obviously the groceries to make the food, but you see the conditions that they live in, but they're happy. Like these little kids, you play with a ball with them, they could be there for hours just because you played. They appreciate the little things in life. And I also, one thing I appreciated about Haiti was that I feel like our culture now is so much in tuned with instant gratification that we can't enjoy a moment with the people that we love or just being at home. We can't. We always want to do things now. It has to be right now at this moment. And that was the one thing that I learned in Haiti was these kids can enjoy a moment with a soccer ball like it was the best time of their life. And it was those moments that I could tell that they absolutely loves life. And I was like, okay, I went back home and it's Christmas. Now we're getting all these gifts, families, friends, they're getting gifts for our family. I'm like, dude, I don't even want a gift. Take on and return my gifts, you know? And it's those experiences in life, you can't, it's like, it's priceless. Like those are the things in life where I look back and I'm so grateful to have been able to experience those things. And that was the one thing when I learned from my Dwight, maybe me and my mentors, that experiences rule the world. Like I think you are successful for the man that you are because you have experienced so many different things, and vice versa with you. You know, you go through trials and tribulations in life, and now all you can do is give back. So that way you give people a clear path to success, right? Because it's not going to be automatic. You're going to be successful, but at least how can I give you the path where you avoid all the potholes and now you're in success a lot quicker than what we have. And I think that was a true testament because he's the reason why I've been successful. And he allowed me to do it in such a short period of time that not even myself I thought could do so. So I want to kind of share to you, have you had those experiences with individuals with your job where you feel like you saw a kid or anybody that you might have helped where you've been through their shoes and you reflected on your own life through their lens? You're like, okay, I see this little kid. This is actually kind of reminds me of myself when I was younger. Have you had that experience yet? Or
Many times over. Many times over. I want to go back to the topic about experiences. I've been really fortunate. I've probably been to as many countries as most people in the world. I like to say that when I pass from this world, that I don't want anybody to cry, because they should be saying, that guy right there, don't cry for him. That dude's lived like 2 lives. So don't feel sorry for that dude. I've been so lucky in my life. I've been to, I don't know, about 40 countries.
wow.
Different kind of experiences in each. Not all of them were working in missions. Some of them were part of fellowships and those things. But I did learn a whole lot and saw, like you said, examples of young people that I'm like, ooh, that skinny little brown kid right there from Bolivia or from Ethiopia or from Peru. That's me. That's me. But for the grace of God, I would have been in that situation. So how do I now help that individual? And so certainly I've seen it. And certainly I've made it a mission in my life to try to be as helpful as I can. Now, one of the things that I've learned from some young Mennonites, there were Mennonite volunteers at multiple organizations where I've worked, and they have a simple philosophy. And those people who know me well know I live a relatively simple life. I'm not, I'm not averse to some good things in life, but I live a pretty simple life. And they had this saying that goes something like this, that it's live simply so others could simply live. And I remember hearing that when I was around 25, and I'm like, damn. I'm like, can I do that? Can I do what they do? Can I live simply so others could simply live? And you know me a little bit, and I don't live completely simply, but given my current means, I probably live about as simply as, I could live more simply, and it's something I could aspire to. But that's a philosophy that stuck with me, like live simply so others could simply live, which means the implication is you have to give more. I have to give more. I have to figure out how to continue to give more. And my wife and I have been really, really blessed, and we established a scholarship at UIC for people in communities like ours.
Wow.
And we have a responsibility to continue to do more. And there's several other nonprofit organizations that we continue to support, including Erie House, where we met.
I know he won't talk about his own accolades, but I will. You talk about a guy that that I've known for a long time. That my question to you, Rick, is you obviously can do whatever you want. You're very polished. Your resume is probably longer than most people's wallpaper, right? So, but you got to a point where you can do whatever you want. But you got to a point where this is fulfilling. You talk about a guy that he was on the board of University of Illinois Champaign. You're on the board of ComEd. This is a guy that is, very well respected in our community, and he chooses to do charitable work for non-profit to give back to the community. So my question to you, Rick, is happiness lies within, right? And I know you, and you live way below your means. And I love that quote that you just said. But at what point in your life, at what age did you think that was more important? Was it we talked earlier when we are talking about that you jumped around and you were I'm not gonna say impatient, but you were at a point in your life where you were trying to find your career path or the organization you felt fulfilled you. Do you think it was experiences, or you think it was maturity of age that you got to a point where this is what I'm going to focus on? Because again, I can speak on your successes and all your accolades because I've seen them and I've been there. This guy just got an award with his wife, and everyone. There's not one. You meet people in your life that you have one bad thing to say about somebody. Oh, that guy. I have not met one person that has one bad thing to say about Rick. Maybe he's got a bad hairline. That's the only bad thing I hear about Rick. But other than that, no one ever says anything bad about you, bro. And reputation is built over time and it's lost in 5 minutes, right? But you seem to maintain your reputation, and to me, that's very important. That's one of the things I look up to you for, because you've always been. Your reputation is impeccable. But at what age is it? Is it an age, or is it a combination of experiences that makes you think before you make or say anything?
It's probably a combination of a lot of experiences and a lot of people. I've been blessed to have had so many mentors. You've talked about your mentorship through Dwight and others, your dad,
Yeah.
grandfathers, everybody. I've had certainly my parents, my in-laws, priests, executive directors, people from all walks of life have been my mentors. And I think largely it's because I'm willing to learn and willing to kind of absorb from them, just like, as you started out this podcast saying. And there's this woman, I think you know her, Dwight, Nancy Vincent.
Yes.
She said to me, she's like this beautiful older woman who's fairly affluent, but one day unsolicited said to me, Rick, there's two kinds of people in the world. And I said, okay, and I don't know where we were going with this. And she said, the people that never have enough and the people that always have everything they need. And you strike me as the latter. And I was like, yeah, there's something to that, because I think I grew up in first 7 years of my life in Mexico, and I was raised by my grandparents. And I thought I was the happiest kid in the world. And I came here as an immigrant. My parents were already here, and we lived in this basement apartment in a little village. And I assume we were poor as hell, but I never thought I was poor. And then we kept going on through school. And I remember not until college, when I had to fill my own FAFSA application for student aid. And we were in sociology class, and I was looking at income, median income, poverty income. And I'm like, holy crap, we were poor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't know we were poor, but it turns out we were poor, and we were pretty poor. But my mindset has always been one of abundance. I've always had what we need. We've had our parents, the love of our parents, friendships, family, good mentors. So I'm like, what else do I need? ¿Qué más necesito? Right? Not a whole lot. So that's been my mindset. So I think it just evolved over time, and yeah, maybe I could do more, maybe not, but I found this job that is awesome. They pay me to do something I love to do. So I'm like, if you could find that, I think you found some happiness. And I happen to have a pretty awesome wife and good family and lots of great friends. And
I guess what makes you fulfilled? Is it every single time that you recognize that a family's help? Like at this point, you've helped so many people that I guess what fulfills you at this point? What is?
Yeah. I think trying to communicate this is difficult, but I think I wake up fulfilled. Now, I'm not naturally the happiest person outwardly in the world, right? People see me, they're like, he's kind of serious, kind of stoic, sometimes even looks a little grumpy. But inside, I always feel happy. And I don't know, you have with your relationship with your wife,
Yeah,
with your fiance, And they're like, "Hey, are you okay? Why are you grumpy?" And my wife tells me that all the time. I'm like, "I'm good." I'm like, it's just kind of the way I am, but I'm feeling pretty good. And so what makes me fulfilled is knowing that other people have what they need to succeed. It's as simple as that. And if we have all the resources in this country and in the world to make sure that everybody has what they need, and so our job is to try to make sure that they get it. And so whether it means rapid rehousing, legal aid, workforce development, high quality childcare, whatever service they need, if we could offer it, we'll offer it, and it'll make us feel good. And if we don't finish today, we will go back to work tomorrow.
What I love about honestly, what I love about his story is we work in an industry where it almost feels like it's never enough. So it's kind of weird. Like our backs are almost always against the wall in terms of like, okay, when is the next deal coming in? Okay, how many more people can we get? Then lifestyle creeps, lifestyle inflation creeps, right? And you're now you get the new house, now you get the new car, and you're always not only in the business aspect, you're always needing more because you want more business to live your lifestyle, but then you start living a nicer lifestyle, and then you always want more because people in the industry always have more, right? So we live in like a complete opposite world of what your actual life is. Your life is like, I'm gonna be a minimalist and I'm going to give back. And it all comes full circle because we just had a podcast we recently did, and we were talking about how I need to get more into philanthropy because we went to an event and I didn't raise my hand to donate at that point in time. But again, it goes back to the reason why is because is exactly what I just explained is it's always like, okay, more, I got to save more. I got to do this more. I got to do that more. And I never knew how to flip that switch to being like, okay, let me give back, and that's something I haven't learned and I haven't felt, right? Was there a point in time in your life where that flip switched where you're like, okay, I'm not thinking about me no more. I'm going to think about other individuals.
Well, sure. But I'll tell you this. I think we need people in our community, whether our community is Latino or whether our community is Black or American, whatever. We need people to make money. We need wealthy people in our community so that they could eventually get back. So what I would want from you is to be super successful, continue to be successful, and there will be a point, and you will know it. It will click automatically that you will now choose how to get back, and it could first start with time, and later it could be with your treasure, but it'll happen. But first, right now, I'm like, be successful, keep working hard at it, be as successful as you can be. We need more people with affluence in our community, and then we need them to not forget about our community, but turn around and help them move forward. And that's just going to happen. It's already happening. I can see it in you already. It's already happening. You're already thinking about it. You're like, how am I going to take what he said, what Dwight said, what I said, and then channel it. But that's going to happen. I wouldn't worry about that.
It's a different fulfillment though, because I can tell you, I remember years ago we were at Jack's Tab, and he wasn't at Erie anymore, and he came to me and he said, "Hey D, you're young. I'm thinking about starting an associates board." And he came with an idea. He's always pushed me to give more back. I got involved with Erie because of Rick, and it started with me making him happy, but then it was a fulfillment that you don't even realize. So that's how it started. I did it. It's my boy. I got to help him. Okay, no problem. That's how it started. I'm not going to say it started as an obligation, but I feel like, okay, I got to do him a favor. He wants me involved, so I got involved. Then he came to me. He's like, "Hey, let's start an associates board." And years later, now I'm no longer involved, right? But you see that organization, that board now, doing great things, and it's a sense of fulfillment that I see when I have these events, and knowing that it started at Jack's Tap with an idea, and to see it grow to where it's now, it's a sense of fulfillment that you can't explain, that money can never buy you, which is why I tell you it's important. Again, you can write a check. It starts with time. You give your time first, which is the most important thing because you can't make more time. We talked about that, right? But it gives you a sense of fulfillment that you won't know until you actually do it. And it might not be overnight, but it will take years now. I'm not involved. And he tells me all the time, is like, you've been more successful now than you give less time. He's absolutely right. And I should give more time now because I should make more time now. I'm at a level where I can make more impact on lives than I did when I was first getting involved. So yeah, I think about that all the time, and my plan is to give back more time and financially and time as well. But when you see those organizations grow, and he's been a key part of that, right? It's just a sense of fulfillment that I can't explain unless you actually do it. And again, you're not going to understand it until you actually try it. And when you do it, when you see other people succeed and go through things that you help put in front of them to succeed, it it gives you a sense of fulfillment that it's priceless, bro. It's priceless.
Well, I think what's tough was like not the fact of giving back. The tough part was understanding what I'm putting my money towards. I think once I get like really emotionally attached to something, it wouldn't be difficult to do it. But did you guys like was Rick that one person that was the one that advocated for you to do it, or
100%. There's no the one person in my life that said you got to give back, you got to get involved, you got to make a difference. It's been him. No one else in my life has told me how important philanthropy, giving back to the community. He's the only guy of all my friends that has pushed me to do that. Now, I'm guilty. I don't do it enough. He's actually, his whole life has been to that. And I commend him for that because, he can be anybody he wants. He can, money is not a driver for him. I can tell you, he's one of the smartest guys I know, and he can do whatever he wants. And he chooses to do, and he does well, don't get me wrong, but he, his fulfillment is not financial. His fulfillment is more than that. But because he had the experiences that have made him feel that. And unless you actually step foot forward and do it and actually get involved and try it, you're never going to feel that fulfillment. So that's why for me, it's important to still be able to associate myself with Rick. And, we became good friends. And to this day, we always talk and what can I do better as not just in business, but as a person. And it always goes back to the community. What can you do better for the community? Because they need us more now than ever. You talk about the immigrants and everybody else that's struggling in this day and age. And, we're both immigrants. We can't just turn our cheek away and say, oh, I'm here, I made it. Okay, I don't have to worry about that anymore. You can't take that approach in life because then you got to give the next person the ability, to his point, to walk in the shoes and make it easier path for them so they can accomplish the American dream, whether it's buying a home, whether everything makes different things make you happy. And you have to find what makes you happy. But sometimes without having those experiences, you don't know what makes you happy, right? That's why it's important to associate or get with people that have a different perspective on life because it's not always about having the nicest car, it's not always about that. Some people don't know what happiness is, and maybe they need to align themselves with the people that can give them that other type of happiness that you can experience if you just are open to participate in it.
right? And I think it's interesting because I mean we're talking about two different perspectives, right? People who are a little bit more money driven and the other perspective of people who are just naturally ready to give back, right? And I think that a perspective that I never really saw was pretty much what you just explained right now. You need people to make money in order for them to be able to give back. But we also need individuals like you to actually educate and be like, yo, now you got the money. Now you have to give
That's
back,
right. You have a responsibility, right?
Right. And that's deep. That's really deep. So do you find yourself like actually talking to, because I know we were talking about the car show, high profile people, like how did you get that network?
Well, let
Like,
me
how
tell you a
did
story about the car show.
Yeah, we dive deeper into
I
it.
first time Rick invited me to car show. As many of you know, the Chicago Auto Show. I'm big fan of it. I've always been. My dad took me there, so as a child, we went there. 9 out of 10 times, we got free tickets from your uncle Edwin. We go there, didn't have to pay, and we had a good time. But one year, Rick invited me. It was the Black Tie Affair, which is a first look at the car show, and tickets were not cheap, like $200-300 or whatever it was. I don't remember. He took me, so I didn't pay for it. So I had the privilege to go with Rick, and I was like a pig in shit. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna. You had to wear a suit, a tuxedo, which not a problem. We get there, all the food, all the drinks, and you can look at any car. You know, it's not like you're open to the public. You can go to any car. Everything's open. It's great. So I'm happy. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna experience this like I never have before. It was the worst experience ever. I went with Rick, and I love Rick to death, but I could not enjoy the show because I again, I don't know a lot of rich people, so they weren't there. But Rick obviously does. Every 5 minutes, he will stop. We had to wait another 5 minutes. He will stop. Goes to show you the kind of people that he associates himself with, and the kind of people that he now is circled around, right? And I just looked at that, and I'm like, shit. I'm not mad. I was mad because I didn't enjoy the show as well as I wanted to, but it changed me. It's like, you know what? I need to associate with that kind of crowd, because that's going to put me at a different, you talked about the last time where you said being a top producer, I'm going to associate myself with top producers. And at first it was unattainable. Now you're like, they're just human. Right.
Right.
And you got to that point where, yeah, I'm going to associate myself with these guys and surround myself with these guys. And they're not no more different than you, but you need that connection, which he has those connections. So, if I want to enjoy it and meet people that, I've been through a lot of events with him where it's, high affluent people, and they're no different than you and I. They've just been, they've been through experiences, they've done things right way. And I look at that as, I need to know what they did to get to the position that they're in. I may not have the resources to know them, but he does. So I connect myself with him to connect with those people. And that's how that's how you bring yourself up, right? And you connect yourself with the right people. And Rick obviously is well respected, and he has all the connections. So I always look at him, you know what, if I want to associate with the right people, we talk about flocking with the right people, soar with eagles. This is why he's one of my closest friends.
What's interesting though, what you're speaking about though, is like, you and I's mindset is the exact same. Like, I'm like, okay, you're surrounded by high profile people, you network, how can we grow and eventually become like these high profile people? His perspective is the opposite. I want to be around high profile people so I can show them how to give back, and like, that's two perspectives of life where it's like, okay, money driven versus being that person to give back to the community. And like you said, I do think we need both kinds of people in this world in order for it to go around. But I want to, for individuals who are like you, right? Someone wakes up and their main motive is to give back. How did you build it to the point where you are surrounded by these high profile people so that way you can get these people to give back? Because I have a memory that is always stuck in my head from one charity event I went through. And I'm thinking, you're raising money. I'm like, okay, people are going to give a couple $100, like whatever. Dude, how much did they raise in literally 30 minutes? It was insane amount of money how you guys were able to raise, but how much was it? So people can know. It was
yeah, I mean, it goes from organization to organization, right? I think we went to Erie and Gags.
Yeah.
And you think about how much they raised. He has an event coming on November 11th. It triple that. It goes to show you how much people are willing to give back.
Right.
But you have to spread that message. And when you get to that point, you're definitely there, bro. I mean, people you talk about people they hear you talk, and then all of a sudden the wallets start coming out. Like, how much you need, Rick? How much?
I wish that were true, Dwight. But I think the fundamentals of business are all the same. You talked earlier about how you need to hustle to get the next deal, to move forward, build a bigger business, bigger portfolio. Our organization is not that much different, right? When I got there, which was almost 13 years ago now, our annual budget was in the neighborhood of about $36 million. We employed about 350 people. Today, you fast forward 13 years, our budget is in the neighborhood of 150 million, and we employ over 1,200 people.
Wow.
So we're a big employer now, awesome. Relatively middle market employer in the nonprofit sector. And so we also have to hustle also have to get contracts, also make relationships, all the same fundamentals that you also have to sell. We have, I call myself the chief sales officer for the organization. They call me CEO, but I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm chief sales officer. But you have to lead with integrity. You have to have people who understand the business. And in your business, if you don't have integrity, it doesn't mean anything, right?
Right.
And in the nonprofit sector, it's exactly the same thing. If I don't have integrity, if my team doesn't act with integrity and kind of deliver on the promise that we talk about, then people don't want to give to us. But if we could prove to them in a measurable way that we are moving the needle, then all of a sudden, money, as Dwight said, starts coming our way. And we've been really lucky. We've been really successful. People have stuck with us over the course of that 13 years. And before that at Erie, some of those donors have stayed with me through Metropolitan Family Services, et cetera. And we just built a portfolio, just like you, of people with high net worth who are interested in doing the right thing by the city, making sure the city's strong, making sure the city prospers. And they think we're a good investment. At the end of the day, they think we're about as good of a bet as any other nonprofit in the country. And so that's how we move our business forward.
Let me ask you, Rick, a question for you for some of the younger viewers that might be looking at this right now. What advice would you give them if they're looking to maybe get into their non-profit world, or are looking to give to the community? What advice would you give someone at that age right now that is not going to say lost, but kind of needs guidance in regards to your field, and or whether they feel like they should give back their time or anything else? What advice would you give them right now?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, Deep, because it's the same advice. I think whether it's Justin in the for-profit corporate world in real estate or in my world, that it's number one, it's you act with integrity, whatever you do. And immigrants work hard, so that's going to happen anyway. But act with integrity. Then the other thing I say is, don't be afraid to make mistakes. And then asking for help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. And in a lot of time in our community, when you think about asking for help, they're like, oh, they're going to know that I don't know. What are they going to think about me? Well, I'm like, well, you know what they think about you. If you ask for help, it's like you have the confidence to ask the question so that you get better. And so I always kind of put myself in the position. I'm like, I need help. I'm not the expert at everything. Can you mentor me? Can you help me on this? So asking for help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. Those are, for me, the two key things. The next one for me is make certain that your glass is always half full, so that you act with a positive mentality, because people figure you out right away. If they think you're a negative person, it's not going to work that hard, and it's hard to fix that. So make sure that you wake up with a positive mentality and you work on that, because if they know that you're naturally positive. I've seen you on these podcasts. I know you in the life outside of the podcast. You're a naturally positive personality and human being, and you act out of goodness. People recognize that, and it's like Nancy Vincent. You always have enough. You strike me as that same kind of person, Rick. So for me, those are the key things. There are many others that the books say that you should have, but make sure you wake up with a positive attitude. Ask for help. It's a sign of strength, and act with integrity. If you got those three things, I think you could do well anywhere.
No, I love that perspective, dude. I mean, I feel like the main point of everyone's success that I always listen to is networking. And I think there is a power of networking. And it doesn't only just stem from networking with people. It's doing exactly what you just said, is read a book. And I still haven't gotten to the point of diving deeper into a bunch of different books. But, I hear the most well-spoken people always quote books. And one thing I find interesting is that when you meet enough people, when you read enough books, your you become a happier person. I think everyone's goal in life should just become a happier person, right? Like at the end of the day, you can achieve anything you want, right? You can make as much money as you want. You can help as many people as you want. But what's the point of helping the world if genuinely inside you're not happy? And I think that's the power of networking. That's the power of reading books. That's the power of looking at life, because now you see life at a different perspective. And it's funny, I wake up every morning. I come back from the gym and I'm sitting there with my girl, and she's half asleep. It's 8 a.m, 7 a.m, whatever it is. And I always come back super excited. I'm like, oh, I'm super motivated to start my day. Let's go. Da, da, da. I'm like crazy. I'm high off life. But it's because I usually listen to a podcast or listen to a sermon, whatever it is I do that day. But when I hear other people's life perspectives, it really drives me through my day. And I want to advise to everybody who's watching this, it's super important to hear other people's life perspectives, because that's going to honestly change your life and whether or not you're going to be happier at that point in life. Because when you hear other people's life perspectives, that person might be able to relate to you. And now you go from a standpoint of, I don't know where I'm going in life, but I related to that person. Now I become happier in life. Do you have an individual in your life that kind of shifted that, or any books or anything that you could relate to other individuals that might have changed your life?
I've read a lot of books, but one that I shared with my compadre Dwight a long time ago is a book called Tuesdays with Maury.
Oh,
There's a lot of books out there, but this one's special to me. Basically, have you read it?
No, not at all.
So it's the story about this Mitch Albom wrote the book, and he was and he is a
you can't
writer.
tell him that, because I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna fake my death. I'm gonna see what.
Yeah, he's a writer, a storyteller, and he was a sports analyst, sports writer. But one day he saw his mentor, an old professor, Maury, in a TV show, talking about how he was on his path to dying. He had an incurable disease, and he remembered that when he graduated, he told Maury that they were going to stay together. You know, all the students were your favorite professor. You're like, we'll stay in touch, we'll stay together, and he never did. And so he decided to call him, and they had a conversation, and they really enjoyed each other. And then the book is about every Tuesday he'd go to visit Maury for the rest of his life. And it was about those lessons that he learned, those life lessons that he learned from a man that was dying. And for me, one of them was about family. And it talked about providing children with, it essentially talks about family as being the single most important thing that we have in society. And then he further goes on talking about this concept of spiritual security. And he says, if you have spiritual security, not religious, but spiritual security, you have everything. And he put it together in the concept of family. It's like when you have a family, it unlocks that spiritual security because it does this, for example. So a family, it goes beyond love, that somebody's got your back all the time. And then you have real life examples of that all the time, that if you're my family, if I'm dropping off your sister after an event and it's night and she gets out the door, we stay there until she opens the door to her home. That's just what we do. And that's an example of spiritual security. She knows that somebody's watching out for her and somebody's always going to have her back. You, your mom, your dad. And so that's just one of the life lessons from Tuesdays with Maury. And so if you haven't read it, I recommend you all read that book. And there's got some amazing life lessons. And it's a fun book. You can read it in, a couple days, and
that's awesome.
And you'll be going.
That's beautiful. You read the book?
Yeah, one of the things I remember from that book is the guy faked his death. He wanted to see how many people would actually show up. And I thought about doing that. I'm like, hey, I want to see who really cares about me, and but yeah, no, it's definitely I've always said this, giving a book to someone, it's the sign of them to try to make you better, right? And to me, that's important. Whenever I get a book, that's the biggest compliment I can get. I love the fact that you tell them, you're right, asking for help, it's not a sign of weakness. Unfortunately, most people, our culture, I feel help is a sign of weakness. And I don't know how to change that outside of education, right? Because most people that feel like they need help, at least in our culture, as what I feel, they feel like, you know what, I don't know. And if they know that I don't know, I might not be good enough for the job. That's why I one of the things I don't like about our culture is that it's if we all stuck together, we be one of the most powerful, races that we stuck together. But unfortunately, it's not the way it works.
But then comes the positive attitude, because we're changing it now, right? This conversation helps change that part of the culture so that people aren't ashamed to ask for help. And again, it's a sign of strength. And it's our job collectively to help people change their mindset.
That's the most important part, is knowing and having conversations like this that can open people's eyes that that's not the case. It is a positive way to reinforce people that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. You want to better yourself. But it takes conversations like this to let other people know that that truly is a fact, right? And unfortunately, there's not enough conversations like this
Right.
that people can hear that is a positive thing, not a negative thing.
And I think that's the beauty. That's what I was speaking about. Is just the beauty of networking and beauty of different perspectives of life. The beauty of meeting new individuals. The beauty of reading. The beauty of hearing other perspectives of life. It's all wrapped in together, because at the end of the day, no one's gonna have that level of influence to influence everybody, right? And every individual is different. So that's why I find it important for every individual to just listen to so many different people, whether it be a podcast, whether it be a book, whether it be meeting people, because conversations like this change people's lives and they don't understand. If someone's unhappy, you got to dig deep to find out why you're unhappy, but you won't find out why you're unhappy until you meet someone that's relating to your situation and have gotten through it, right? So I think that it's important to read books like that. Like, I never read that book, and I found, like, right now, like, that, again, I'm easy to get motivated, but it motivated me. I was like, oh, I love that. I love that story. But I think you shared a beautiful perspective of life that I didn't know. And I want to thank both you guys for coming out today. I words can't explain how grateful I am for having both you guys on here, for sharing your story and your both perspective on life. But I want to wrap things up. The number one topic, like I kind of spoke a little bit about, is happiness. What do you think, both you guys, a question for both you guys, Rick, you could start. What do you think your main driver of happiness is?
Well, there's the beauty and simplicity, right? Like, my life now, it's like trying to keep things simple. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we do that we just do because there's an expectation. So if I could just simply live and let others live, but keep my life simple and focused, it allows more time for happiness for me. And again, I wake up happy.
Yeah.
So, but again, keeping things simple.
Okay. That's a good answer. Go.
Me, experiences, I've told that before. I love, I get gratification giving others experiences that I've experienced. And maybe that's not their cup of tea, but sometimes I feel like I have a bigger joy of sharing something that I've found great with the people I love and care about, right? So I always like to give experiences. That's my biggest joy. If I experience something, I want to share that with the people I care about. I want them to experience it and maybe enjoy it the way I have. That's my driver. That's my biggest driver. But I'll finish this. My last question to you, Rick, before we cut it off is, you look at what would you change in today's youth to get more involved and seek the mentorship, maybe to open up, to realize that it's not just about them, or not about that there's others, that there's gratitude in helping others. So if what advice would you give them, or what path would you suggest they take, whether it's reaching out to Metropolitan Services or any other organizations that you would suggest to give people that path of finding self-gratitude in other ways outside of financial growth?
Yeah. I would say simply, Dwight, just take that first step and get involved in your local charity. It could be any one of your local charities. It could be a Latino-run one that works on Black-brown relations, one that works on any kind of charity, hospitals, whatever. Just take the first step and get involved. What you will learn, and I think you talked about this earlier, is you get more out of it than you put in. You really end up getting more out of it. And people don't get that in the beginning. It's a bit of a chore. I'm doing it because of a relationship. I'm doing it maybe because I feel a little guilt and obligation, but then you're in it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm getting a ton, whether it's a network or just the feeling of fulfillment that you get from doing it. And then it leads to the next relationship, and it leads to more fulfillment. So take the first step and get involved. And we're talking about young people. They're awesome, man. I'm a big fan of the young generation. I think they're better than us. I think your generation is better than mine, and it's more conscious, and has a natural mindset to help. Now, if we could just get them a little bit more focused, I'm going to sound real old right now. We could just get them off that phone a little bit and get them actually doing stuff for the community. Then we unlock that potential.
That's very well said. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. I really do truly appreciate you guys' time. If you guys haven't already, like, subscribe, turn your post notifications on right now. Hope you had your cafecito on deck, and hope you guys have a great day.